That's going to be good enough. So hopefully you guys are enjoying yourselves, and we're going to talk a little bit here today about word of mouth marketing. Obviously Steve got into it a little bit in terms of networking and what you need to be able to do to be successful. I'll tell you, I think networking has gotten a bad rap over the years. You know, I think a lot of times people, they go out and they look at networking almost as this, you know, off-brand, I'm just going to try to, I don't have money for this, so let me network, right? And I'm just going to kind of meet people and hand out a bunch of cards, and I guess, you know, kind of hope for the best is kind of the thinking that usually happens with that. And what I try to tell people is networking, and Steve got into this during his presentation, networking is a process. Networking is a process. Networking is something, I always tell people that your business today is a function of what you did 2 months ago, by the way. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in here, I know. Your business today is a function of what you did 2 months ago, which for a lot of people coming out of corporate America, I worked in corporate America, I'm sure if we were not, but if we did a call of hands, 90% of the people worked in corporate America at some point in time, probably more. And what you would find is that it's confusing for people because in corporate America, it is almost a one-for-one relationship. I do this direct mail piece, and 2 weeks later, my phone rings. I run this ad, okay, where's Lume for the radio? There we go. I run this ad, okay, and for radio, and 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever it is, this comes through, and that's great. That's great, okay? But networking, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Networking is something, as Steve was talking about, it is building the relationships with people. It is building a process. And I think a lot of times where people make their mistake is that, you know, we live in this thank you, drive through, you know, kind of world. Do you want fries with that? Right? And we get this impression that I went out and networked, I got a bunch of cards, and I didn't get any business, so networking doesn't work for me. You know, Brian, I don't know what you've written these books on. I don't know what you've been talking about for the last 12, but networking doesn't work, you know, for me. All right? And I think a lot of times it's because they don't have the right thought process behind it, and I think it's because of the process or lack thereof that makes it so that it hasn't worked as well. So we're going to get into a few challenges or mistakes that people have made while networking. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can avoid them. I call them the top 3 mistakes most people make now while networking. And if that sounds good to everybody, we'll get started. Does that sound good? Yes. Oh, come on. Does that sound good? Yes. There you go. You can see Trish and I work a lot together, right? Same technique right there. All right. Here we go. Let us get into some of these mistakes. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. If you haven't figured it out, I'm not from the South. Okay? So we'll just get that out of the way right off the bat. I'm originally from Greenwich, Connecticut, lived there for a while, and then I went to school actually here in North Carolina. And as I like to say, I realized that there was an entire part of the country that didn't have to shovel snow. I'm like, brilliant, you know? Why is anybody living north of Virginia? I don't know. I don't know, but I've been told not to say that, but okay, I still don't know. And I lived down here for a little bit. I have actually been down here since 1998. I come now from Atlanta and have been over there for quite some time. Started my own business right after 9/11. Okay, started my business right after 9/11 and have been doing this ever since, you know, and I really enjoy what it is I do. I tell people that starting my own business, if there's some people here who haven't done it before, or maybe I don't know exactly the makeup of the crowd, but if they're kind of on the fence or thinking about it, or, you know, going into a new part of the business, I think that was probably the single best thing that I did in terms of being able to just have the autonomy and be able to have the means by which to be able to grow what it is I'm doing. There's no question I'm a different person as a result of that. I'm just not the same man that I used to be. So hopefully what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to, now starting your own business doesn't come without its challenges. I mean, right? There's different, people say to me, my friends, you know, from high school, the first question is, are you still doing that business? That's the first question. Now, the Brian 3.0 version reacted a little bit prickly to that before, okay, like a cat. You like at them when they did that. Like my hackles get all up. But now the kinder, gentler Brian just says, yes, I am. Okay, so it comes with its own challenges, but I think, and this is what I play a lot of golf. What I try to articulate is, and for those of you who don't, you might not get this exactly, but when the golf course, in this case business, is challenging, right? I mean, you're getting your money's worth. Is there anybody in here in this economy who's not getting their money's worth? Okay, you're getting your money's worth, I'm hoping, right? Okay, you get it? So you're getting your money's worth over the last 2 or 3 years. And what I say, though, is that it's just like a hard golf course. It's just like the course is hard. You know, things are maybe not going your way. Maybe you don't get the right bounce. Maybe you get to this. Maybe you get to that. But it sure is nice that you actually know how to play. Okay? And when you can have somebody work on your swing, when you can have somebody maybe get you some new equipment, when you can have somebody show you maybe how to look at it a little bit differently, it'll be a lot more fun. I always tell, I think I've told Rita this, this game is a lot more fun when you win. I mean, it is a lot more fun when you win. Take my word on that. It is much more fun when you win. So let's talk about winning here. Top 3 mistakes, networking mistakes that most people make. We're going to do kind of a countdown. Mistake number 3, okay? Mistake number 3 is talking too much about themselves. Yeah. Talking too much about themselves. You've probably run into this before, right? This is the rhetorical question, right? People, you run into them, they're, going out and meeting all these people. Now let me ask you guys this question. When you talk to somebody and all they're doing is jibber-jabbering away, your little chatterboxes, you ever, right? What was that? Chatty Cathy?
Chatty Cathy.
Yeah, just Chatty Cathys. And are we more or less likely to want to work with that person when they're just talking all about themselves?
Less likely.
Less likely. Why? This is a question now out to the group. Why were we less likely? Self-centered, which is an iteration of that, all about you or them. Rob?
Well, I was going to say it's all about you, it's not about them.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Well, if they haven't actually listened to me, they don't know what's relevant to me, so.
Now we're getting somewhere, aren't we? We're getting into, did you hear what he said? Say that again, if you don't mind.
If they haven't listened to what I said, then they don't know what's relevant to me.
Part of networking, everybody hear that? Part of networking, okay, let me step back here. There is a traditional conversation about traditional marketing, okay? It is more of a billboard based, okay? I'm going to blast it out to everyone that I can see. I'm going to just blast my message out. Now, the problem is that in what I'm going to call a little bit more of a retooled marketing, and networking fits into that approach, we want to have a more individualized feel when we're talking to somebody. Am I making sense? Okay? And part of the thing that's ironic in this country, there's a lot of things, but one of them is that when we live in such a compartmentalized, self-sufficient, independent, do it all ourselves, don't need any help, but in spite of all of that, we still like to connect with people. Now I can explain to you why we don't have time for that today, okay? But that's generally accepted. We still want to connect with people. And what happens is that when you're marketing, if you try that blast approach through networking, let me tell you what happens. All the 4 things that you just heard, were any of them good? No. No, they were actually all bad, weren't they? Okay? And I'll tell you 2 reasons. One, why that happens, and the other is when it changed. The reason why it happens is because today's business owners all came from corporate America, 70s, 80s, 90s, okay? In corporate America, that's what they do. There's a conversation about blasting out their message, okay, to different things. So what we do is we say, oh, all right, well, we're going to start our own business, so we must do this in our own business because no one told us anything else differently. Is everybody with me on this? So we go to this networking event, and we're handing out all of these cards, and we think we're actually doing something. Am I right or am I right? Okay? So what happens is we want to be able to have it where people are a little bit more individualized. And I'll tell you when it changed. You know when it changed? Anybody want to take a guess? It's a hard question. Level, on a scale of 1 to 5, this question is a 5 on hardness. Anybody want to know when exactly? See, now no one's going to answer it now, right? Because I've already set that up. Anybody want to take a guess as to when it actually changed, in my opinion? When did it actually change? It was over the last 15, Probably last 20 years. So it's 2012. Yeah, go ahead.
9/11.
Good guess. Not the right answer. It's a hard one. Good guess, though. It's a good guess. Okay, yeah, Janice.
When we were able to talk to people online.
Getting closer. That is 1998-ish, 1999. So we're getting closer to the year. We're going back. One more guess? Yeah, Steve. Facebook is now going, that's 2003. Colder, colder, colder.
1990s when the worldwide hit the world, the dot-com.
Yeah, that's closer, but it was even before that. One more guess. No, you guys are forgetting. Okay, I'll give it to you. When I go home, or when you go home, let me ask you this, all right? If you go home and you want to watch sports, let's say you want to watch football, what channel can you watch?
ESPN.
ESPN, but you can also watch the NFL Network, I thought. What about ESPN2? What about The Trace? When we got cable, we had different channels, didn't we? When I was growing up,
3, right?
cable?
Especially with headline news.
Yeah, it's earlier. Yeah, I would say probably cable. I mean, I was specifically going to say satellite if you want to know the truth. But I mean, cable was when I was a kid. I mean, you're talking, when I was growing up, you had, CBS, NBC, this news station called Fox, ABC, and PBS. Those were my channels. All right? Now, I want to watch football. I'm having a conversation with my wife. I'm thinking, if we're going to follow football, if we're going to seriously follow football and get my fantasy league football, and the other thing too, I got a fantasy basketball. Anybody join a fantasy basketball league? Let me tell you something, it's hard work. They said, oh, don't worry, Brian, it's not a big deal. It is. Okay? I'm one game out of the playoffs, so we'll see how that goes. I told my wife, I said, if I'm going to do this fantasy basketball thing, if I'm going to have a serious conversation about contending in my fantasy league, I'm going to have to get the NBA channel next year. Like there's no way around that because there's all of this stuff that's going on. My point is that with cable and specifically satellite, we can watch. You've got Lifetime movies, Lifetime for women. Don't forget Oxygen. Okay? And that's why it started to become that way. So when you're networking, think cable, think satellite, think I can go get whatever I want tuning in, and that's who you want. So that means you need to make your conversation relevant to that person. Now, how do you do that? Well, probably a good start would be asking the right questions. Make them feel important, make them get involved with your conversation. Let me give you some questions that you can ask for people, all right? I'll give you 3, actually. One of them I like to ask is, where else do you normally network? All right, that's one of my favorites. I like to ask people, where else do they normally network? I like to ask people, what got them started in that direction? Where else do you normally network? What got you started in that direction? And what do you like best about what you do? All right? These are some questions that I like to ask of people because I want to be able to enable them to be able to engage with me. What got you started in this direction, right? Where else do you normally network? And what do you like best about what you do? When I first started writing my book on networking like a pro, what I wanted to do was to create what I called a visible identity. All right? I wanted people to be able to come and differentiate themselves in the mind of the other person from the other 5 people that they've already met. You guys with me on that? And what happens is when you go out and network and you engage, and when you're meeting and asking these questions, what you understand is that it's not about me, as Rob was saying. It's about who I'm talking to and what's relevant to who. That's what networking is, in a nutshell, 50,000 foot. That's what it is. And I see a lot of people make that mistake all the time. Let's get to mistake number 2. And then we'll open up for some questions, and I'll be doing a raffle as well. We'll get the raffle thing in a second. Mistake number 2 is trying to be